I'm probably gonna piss a lot of people off with this video, but just hang on for a second. Don't rage quit to go house a double bacon cheeseburger and hear me out for a second. So briefly, I'm gonna break down a history of my own relationship with veganism, and then I'll get into the macro stuff. I've been vegan for 11 years now. Ever since I was a kid, I didn't like thinking about the process of how the meat I was eating would get to my plate, so I didn't. I knew about the concepts of vegetarianism and eventually veganism, but I didn't personally know any people who successfully implemented those dietary philosophies in any meaningful way, which meant I had no framework through which I could ever hope to implement them myself. Plus, I grew up in a very Italian-American family that ate meat and dairy with basically every meal. Cutting either food group out would be A, sacrilegious, and B, kneecapping about 80% of my family's recipe book. When I turned 19, I started dating a vegan. Never once was she pushy or preachy about it, but she was steadfast and resolute in her commitment to those eating habits. We eventually got talking more and more about it, and one day she showed me a video Paul McCartney made called "If Slaughterhouses Had Glass Walls, Everyone Would Be a Vegetarian." I won't show it here because it's extremely graphic, but if you've never seen it, this mini documentary is gruesome, horrific, and perhaps most importantly, exceptionally persuasive. After one viewing, I decided to give up meat and dairy forever. Well, actually, I gave up everything except seafood first, then dropped the seafood eventually, and in 6 months or so, I was a full-on veggie boy. So that's a little background on my personal journey with veganism. Now onto the stuff that's potentially going to chap your ass. There's often a very distinct and annoying stereotype of vegans that omnivores have in their minds whenever the topic is raised. If you're still watching at this point, you probably assume I look something like this person, or this person, or maybe even this person. The prevailing vegan stereotype is a crunchy, preachy, sanctimonious dietary scold who treats their eating habits like a holy crusade and won't rest until everyone all the world over is eating kale chips and kimchi for lunch every day. But as is the case with most stereotypes, this depiction of vegans is uncharitable, overblown, and largely fictional. You always have a loud vocal minority of douches in any subset of the population, but in my experience, vegans are just normal people who choose to abstain from eating meat for ethical, medical, or environmental reasons. That's all. If anything, it's the meat eaters who are the ones who are constantly trying to convert vegans or poke logical holes into their philosophies. I can't tell you how many times I've been at a party and after turning down a piece of chicken, having drunk people go into some version of this spiel. Life eats life, bro. Do you think it's wrong for a lion to go hunt down a gazelle, bro? Do you think that's wrong? Are you gonna sit there on your high horse and shame that lion, bro, for just being himself and being the king of the jungle and whatnot? That lion's just trying to get by, bro. I didn't take you for a lion shamer. That's honestly f***ed up, bro. Do better. Or, did you know if you play music for plants, they grow better, bro? They literally listen to music, bro. Did you know that? And they have specific tastes in music too, bro. Some of them like really f*** with classical. Some really love like avant-garde type of shit. Stevie Nicks, Lyle Lovett, all types of stuff. These plants are like extremely advanced emotional beings, bro. If you're so concerned about the earth and all its inhabitants and shouldn't you abstain from eating them as well? And especially, how do you get your protein, bro? And just to quickly refute some of those arguments, yes, life does eat life. I'm not going to shame a lion for being a wild animal doing what it's programmed to do. But do you know what lions don't do? Overbreed, cage, torture, and murder billions of gazelles in literal death factories. We're supposed to know better than wild animals. Our advanced evolutionary path as humans has gifted us with perspective, empathy, and intellect. We shouldn't be using lions or any other apex animal predator as a moral barometer. As for the music thing, yes, studies have shown that plants can respond positively towards music and other man-made environmental stimuli. Some of them also express some sort of fear response when in danger of being consumed or cut down. But as a wise man at a barbecue once said earlier in this video, life eats life, bro. And it's true, there's really no way around that unless I'm just going to deny my body's need for sustenance entirely and curl up into the fetal position in the woods waiting to starve. I'm gonna have to eat something. For me, that means eating things that don't have central nervous systems, children, faces, voices, and personalities. Oh, and I get my protein from nuts, beans, broccoli, oats, potatoes, spinach, peas, quinoa, and a whole lot of other things. And those arguments are just the tip of the iceberg. Some meat eaters will meet a vegan or vegetarian and laser focus on them for hours, trying to berate them into eating chicken nuggies and quarter pounders again with epic facts and logic. There seems to be this unyielding public perception of vegans as the most intolerant and uppity group of people imaginable, but for 11 years I have yet to meet a single vegan that fits that stereotype, and I know a lot of them. I live in Brooklyn. Okay, I'll admit I'm fitting the stereotype right there, aren't I? But seriously, the only group of people I know to consistently preach their gospel and try to convert people is meat eaters, and I think I have a tiny inkling of why that might be. Okay, here we go. The reason meat eaters feel so much anger against vegans is they know vegans are, fairly objectively, living by a higher moral standard than they are, at least in terms of dietary choices. Do you know any people who eat meat who enjoy learning more about where the ground beef they get from the grocery store comes from? Do they spend their free time watching slaughterhouse footage and saying, "Yes, this is good. I agree with this"? No, probably not, because unless you hunt for your own food, which, by the way, most vegans find infinitely more commendable than buying it in a grocery store, or spend hours learning about the exact way each piece of free-range, grass-fed beef you consume got into your shopping cart or onto your dinner plate, being a meat eater, especially in the US, requires quite a great deal of burying your head in the sand. You don't want to know about the cow that lived a horrendously short and traumatic life in obscene conditions so you could have your sirloin steak. And why would you want to know more if you weren't willing to give it up? Despite what some people might say, being vegan, in my estimation, is 100% a sacrifice. Things like beef, pork, chicken, seafood, and cheese taste extremely good. I would never deny that. Giving them up for ethical reasons was difficult for me, especially in the case of cheese.
Better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's.
In fact, it tastes so goddamn good, it's the only reason persuasive enough for billions of people on this planet to willingly turn a blind eye to the unfathomable suffering and murder of entire species of animals. For many meat eaters, vegans just existing in their vicinity are a reminder of the less than pretty things they try not to think about every day in order to enjoy the things they like. We don't even have to say anything. The simple action of us abstaining from animal products while in the same room as them is taken as a direct moral condemnation. So to counter this perceived argument by osmosis, you try to poke holes in our worldview. When you try to convert vegans or dismantle their belief systems, in so many words you're saying, "You're not better than me. You're not better than me. You're not better than me. No, you're not better than me. Why do you think you're better than me? Why do you think you're better than me? You are not. Why do you think you are? You're not better than me. Very ugly shirt. You're not better than me. You're not better than me. Hippie." Are you mad yet? Because at this point in the video, I'm going to do the thing where I turn it all around and try to say something nice about both sides and what brings us together and all that, so just stick around for that. Here's the truth of the matter. Perhaps a vegan is operating on a higher moral plane in this narrow sense, but that by no means determines that they're a better person than you in all aspects. Here's your obligatory, Hitler was a vegetarian. At least for a while, he was. Anyway, I'll use this dichotomy as an example to illustrate the point. I'm a vegan and I care deeply about animal rights issues. I know someone who eats more meat than anyone else I know, but they also spend a ton of their free time getting involved with and donating to cancer charities. Both of us sacrifice something to take part in the quote-unquote moral mission of our choosing, while generally ignoring the other's pet issue. Is either one a better person than the other? More moral, more commendable? Personally, I don't think I've given you enough information to make that call. The world is chock full of tragedy and destruction. There's no way for a single person to get involved with fixing or even caring about all of it. It's physically impossible. Everyone buries their head in the sand about certain things. It's a necessary defense mechanism. If we don't do that, we'd be too depressed to get out of our beds in the morning. So for the meat eaters who hate vegans on principle, our mere existence and dietary choices shouldn't be taken as a slight against your character. We're just trying to exist, drink some kombucha, and eat veggie burgers and shit. With respect, you can stop trying to poke and prod us with these thinly veiled and, let's be honest here, a tad bit insecure arguments. And for any vegans watching, here's the most important thing I've learned about converting meat eaters. Do not shame people or chide people or scold people. I know it can be tempting when you first educate yourself on the scope and scale of the horror involved with the meat industry, but as is the case with most things, you catch more flies with agave syrup than vinegar. If you want to spread your message, lead by example, and always lead with kindness and patience. You're never going to get your dad to stop going to Taco Bell by yelling statistics at him. Anyways, that's all for today. Like and subscribe for more. Let me know if you'd like to see more of this type of content from me. I usually do video essays about movies and television, but this was actually really fun to do, so if you enjoy it, let me know down below, and I'll see you soon.